All right, thanks for sticking with us. Now we're going to dive into the world of dashboards. And dashboards, there's quite a few features with, but we'll try to get through them in a decent amount of time here and give you all you need to know about them. So first of all, to get to dashboards, number one, there's the dashboard icon on the left. Number two, if you want to switch between dashboards within the profile that you're in, your list of available dashboards is here. If you have other dashboards, beyond this profile, you can either switch the profile or maybe you have those dashboards linked from somewhere. And there's many places in our software you can link them from. We've shown you the bookmark bar already, but we'll show you others. So in this case, I'm just going to be on this particular dashboard. As I've said before, I've got a few others open here just to show you examples. They can look quite different from each other. They can have all kinds of radically different information on them, or color schemes, or status, or you name it. And so we'll talk about some of the objects that live on them that are unique to the dashboard, but most of the visualizations you see here exist throughout the system, and you have the ability to put them on here. So let's look at a few of the visualization options on this dashboard. I've put a lot of stuff on this one. Most dashboards don't quite have this much on them, but you have the choice. So here's some automatically generated visualizations like our geomap or a trend. This happens to be an SPC trend. Here's a Pareto chart, a great visualization that we love. Really highlights where your problems are. Got all kinds of different bar charts. Here's one that's a month, week, day bar chart. And here's a horizontal bar chart, and we have stacked, we have grouped bar charts, etc. Here's a list view of KPIs with a bullet chart view, status and spark lines, a KPI map, an XY plot down here, some links. These are just dashboard links to anything you want. One of these goes to our website externally, and one of them just shows another dashboard. Here's a Gantt chart, a table of information, and then down at the bottom here we have a couple of embedded objects. We have an embedded YouTube video and an embedded web form. And those are objects also that live inside the hierarchy or navigation, but have been added to this particular dashboard. So you can add all kinds of things to your dashboard. And if you, and before we talk about how to make this or how to manage it or customize it, let's talk about a couple of other features of it. One is time ranges. So you see that this is a 1-day time range up here. This is a 1-week time range down here. Down here is an 8-hour time range, etc. So by default, you have every object on the dashboard has its own time range. And what time range it's showing when you add it to the dashboard is the time range it's going to remember and keep for you. Even though they're live moving trends, you still have these time range. You can even put the same object on the dashboard multiple times with different time ranges. If you want to see the last 10 minutes plus the last hour plus the last day and plus the last week of the exact same value, you could do so no problem. Okay, but you also have the ability to bind a dashboard to a time range, the entire dashboard. So we have a time range picker here up at the title bar of the dashboard. And if I click that, I'm presented with a list of time ranges. Now this list is customizable. This one has a whole bunch of fun stuff in it, but by default, you'd only have 5 or 6 options here. But whoever controls the administration of the site and uses the Visual KPI Designer can determine how many default options. So if you're looking at really slow moving data, you might care about daily or weekly or monthly or annual time ranges. If you're looking at really high speed data, you might have, like we have here, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour, 4 hour, 8 hour, etc. So I'm going to pick one of these time ranges, and let's pick 4 hours as an example. And then you'll see down here, as I look through these visualizations, now I have a 4-hour time range here. And I have a 4-hour time range over here. And now if I refresh this one, you'll force it down. Oh, in this case, I haven't done it on that device, sorry. So just on this device here, I've got my 4-hour time range. Now I can go backwards and forwards in time at the top by using these paddles. So that's one feature. And if I'm on a 4-hour time range, for example, going back will take me back 4 hours. If I was on a 1-hour time range, going back would take me 1 hour back. I also have the ability to just drag the whole dashboard. So again, if I look at these two things, here's the 4-hour one in the lower right. Here's a 4-hour one up here. But if I say I want to drag this back in time, then you'll see that it dragged the entire dashboard back in time. Everything went back. Or if I want to zoom in on this trend and find some tiny sliver of time, like let's do something really tiny here. Now I've gone into 1.84 minutes, and you can see the entire dashboard has zoomed into that same 1.84 minutes. It's all there on the system. So no matter what time range I'm picking, I'm controlling the entire dashboard. Now this is great for diagnostics or for troubleshooting or for seeing if there's a correlation between things, but it's also good because it blurs the line between this real-time monitoring concept and reporting, where you might want to have a daily report or a weekly report. You can set up weekly time ranges, and you can even set up a dashboard to have a time range by default. That means it's already bound when users go to it. And so you have a lot of flexibility around time on these dashboards. And if you set it up that way, then again, you can set up this link. You know, this dashboard all has a link. And when you send that out to your users, they're going to always be looking at that daily or monthly or weekly report, whatever you cared about, with one big advantage or two big advantages. Number one, even though they're looking at a weekly view, they can still see in real time where things are problems right now. And second, instead of sending them a PDF or some other static report, they have the ability to drill in or change the time range or drag around and see what's happening and do more investigation. So you get away from all this static stuff and everybody gets a real-time view. And even if your report said everything was well, but since the report came out, things have gone downhill, all that's going to be evident because you're still looking at real-time status on your view. So time range is a very important concept for the dashboard. So let me, let me go back and get this back to no time range here, get it back to its original thing, and let's, well, we already talked about embedded content a little bit. Let's talk about customizing a dashboard here. So if I have the rights, and I do, if I go over to the gear icon and I say customize dashboard, then that takes me to a new screen, which is the dashboard designer. And again, this works on any device. So if I go over here to my phone and I want to customize the dashboard, all of that is here. I can use my fingers to customize and do all the same work that I'm about to do here on the browser, on the bigger browser. So if I want to move things around, let's say I want to put this Pareto chart over here and move this map over here and maybe resize something, or change the features on some of these objects. Keep in mind some of these objects have more than one visualization in them. So here I can switch between the trend and the bullet chart, etc. Or I could turn that off and apply that, and then they wouldn't have all those features. So you have control over that. I can add new links to it, either external links or to or other internal links or to dashboards themselves. And I can even rename the dashboard or change the description if I choose to. Okay, so I'm going to save these minor changes that I made. So I moved this map over here and the Pareto chart over here. I also have the ability to customize the labels on these objects just for this dashboard. So if I want to change Fresno to something else, just by clicking on it, I have the ability to edit that and then save it. Or the description is the same way. I can do that. So that's another thing you have control over in the dashboard. Okay, so that's a little bit about those. I'm going to also show you adding objects to the dashboard. But before I do, let me show you how to make a new dashboard that's a copy of this one. So let's go up to the dashboard thing and say new dashboard. Now I can make a brand new blank one, but in this way, I'm going to say copy of global and test copy of dashboard. Okay, and in that case, all I have to do is click this box and say, which dashboard do I want to copy? It doesn't have to be the one I'm on. I could choose from a list of all dashboards. In this case, I want the one I'm on. And then I click Save. Now I'm on Copy of Global. And if I go back here and edit it, let's say I move it back like the old one was. Let's put this over here. Save that. Now when I toggle between these, global and then copy of global, you'll see the differences there. So instead of starting over and making a brand new dashboard, then I have the ability to take one that already exists, or often one that's locked down. So the administrator said, don't change my dashboard, or don't change this one that I want everybody to see, but I want to make a custom view of it. I want to see the same dashboard, but with my own edits. So that's another great way to do that. So I'm going to go back over here and go to global, and then I'll show you one last thing here on the dashboard topic, and that is the concept of sharing a dashboard. Most objects in our system, you just click the share button, or you can go up to the very top and click the URL. But dashboards have one thing that's a little different. There's a concept of a default dashboard. And so the URL you're looking at up here in the top, the first part of it is just the URL to this site. The second half is basically saying, go give me the dashboard. And the dashboard is variable, meaning it's going to give me the last dashboard I was on. Or if I've never been to a dashboard, it's going to give me the default dashboard. And if there is no default dashboard, it's going to give me a blank dashboard. So it's doing some automatic things. So if I just share this link right here with somebody else, and they've been looking at a different dashboard, it's going to take them to that other dashboard. So when you're sharing a dashboard, you always want to go over here to the share link. And when I click on that over on my other monitor here, it is going to make me an email. I'll drag it in here, where I can say, here's a link from Visual KPI, and now you see that this URL is much longer and it has the actual unique identifier of this exact dashboard I was looking at. So when you use the share button on a dashboard, it's going to give you that particular link. This is the same thing if you wanted to embed a whole dashboard somewhere in another application. You want this proper link. Okay, so that's a little bit about sharing of dashboards. So that's everything you need to know about dashboards, with the exception of adding objects to them. So let me just show you a quick example of adding objects to a dashboard. There's multiple ways to do this. I'll take any visualization inside of my software. So let's go to charts and pick any random chart here. Let's take this chart right here. So let's say I like this chart and I want to add it to my dashboard. I just go to anything that I like and click Add to Dashboard. When I do, I'll be presented with this green box, and if I click on it, take me right to that dashboard designer, and that new object is sitting right at the top. Okay, if I go over here, it's sitting right there. Probably want to customize that a little bit, maybe make it a different shape or size, or put it somewhere else that's interesting to me. Okay, so that is how I just added something to my dashboard. Let's do that in another way, in a very simplistic, in just a different way of doing things. So let's also go to some KPIs here. And here's the Add to Dashboard link when I'm looking at a list or any group of KPIs. When I click on that, it's going to turn them all into checkboxes. And if I were to pick a couple of them, or I could pick all of them, whatever I want, and say Add to Dashboard, when I do that, it's going to put those new objects right here on the top of the dashboard. Okay. Now, while I'm here, and the last thing that I'll show you about dashboards, let me get rid of some of these things I've added and put this back the way I had it. While I'm here, let's talk about the various sizes and shapes of objects you can have on your dashboard. And there's really two classes of objects. There's individual KPIs or dashboard-specific objects, which are KPIs or groups. Here's a KPI, here's a group object, here's a couple of KPI objects. You can see them over here on the mobile phone. And the size options for these in width are either a quarter of the width of the screen or half, and those are your two options, or a short version or a tall version. And you can see the short version here and the tall version. They each have a little bit different look when you're using them. Okay. Same thing is true for all of these individual objects on the screen. Let me save this so you can actually see them here on the bigger screen too. So when they're larger and you have more room on the screen, you're going to see a bigger trend and things are going to reformat themselves automatically. And this is what the short one looks like when it's a little bit wider. Okay, so you can play around with the various sizes there. Now let me go back to the customization and let's talk about all other objects. So any other object in our system has 3 heights. You've got the short version, you've got the medium version, and you've got the tall version of it. And we'll leave that one as short. And then for width, you have either half the screen or the whole screen. Okay, so you have those choices to choose from, and usually covers most of your bases for things. The one exception to controlling the height of any particular object is in any kind of a list view. And on the list view, what height you're choosing here is going to be the minimum height. But if the list is longer, I don't think I have an example here. Let's see. Here's a list view, but if this list had 50 KPIs on it, even though it would start at this short thing, it would show all 50. So it would be longer than what you put in there. So if you really want to control that, you need to make sure you're showing a list that has less information on it. Otherwise, it will grow. On all other objects, they'll shrink to fit exactly, or in a few cases, they'll have a little scroll bar in there, especially with some embedded content. So that's a little bit about all of those objects and everything you need to know about a dashboard, which is one of the major ways of interacting with visual KPI. And now we'll move on to our next topic.